When I get to the bottom, I go back to the top of the slide, and then I turn and I go for a ride, and then I stop and I do it again. We find ourselves at season 6 of Straycast, the glorified version of a bass fishing talk show. And I'm your host, Pat Renwick. Welcome, Bass Galaxy, to season 6.
60 times.
Yeah, wow. Holy cow. We made it here.
Is it really 6?
It's really season 6.
Okay.
Yes. Or as they say in American, 6.
What's wrong with 6? We got a problem with 6?
we did it. Hey, in grand fashion, in glorified fashion. Let me back up a minute and just say that I have a little bass fishing band of angels, and it's Rick Clunn on the drums. Yeah, it's he's holding everything together. Okay, and it's Bill Dance on the bass guitar.
See, I saw Clunn on bass.
Hold on, it's Rick Clunn on the drums. It's we got Bill Dance on the bass. We got Mark Zona on lead guitar, and we got Mike Iaconelli on the lead vocals. He's the front man.
Yeah,
he's the front man. And you know what? We got 2 of those guys coming on the show tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Rick Clunn and Mike Iaconelli on the season 6 opener. Yes.
decent start.
Not bad. Not 2 shafts.
It's good for you.
Listen to the Bass Galaxy. I got overwhelmed for a minute. I mean, I'm going to be honest. It's pretty cool that we get to be doing this. We're obviously not professional bass fishermen, but we've been at this for a little bit. And the fact that we get to hang out with these guys on a regular basis is a pretty cool deal. And we're very fortunate and feel grateful to make it 6 seasons. And thank you to all our advertising partners who bring us this far. And at this point, may we please, Bass Galaxy, get ready, and because we're gonna get real loud for them. We brought aboard, or we should say that they brought us aboard this year, and that's Outcast Tackle for the Slicks rod covers. Yeah, everybody needs rod covers, right?
Yeah.
So that covers up that covers it up. No glove, no love, as they say in the industry.
Yeah, unless you like breaking tips. And
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Also, we are now partnered with Sims Fishing. Yes. The coolest clothing in the industry. Thanks, Patterson Leaf.
These are exciting announcements I'm just finding out about right now.
Well, these are big announcements. These are big announcements. Yes, absolutely. Also, Dakota Lithium Batteries. Hello, Dakota Lithium Batteries.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a new one. Andy didn't even know that one. See how I did that, Andy? That's a new one.
Somebody stole your battery.
I say we go get that. And ladies and gentlemen, we are very proud that these guys are taking a chance on us at the glorified version of a bass and talk show, and that is Omnia Fishing. Yes, OmniaFishing.com.
Oh, that's why you wore that shirt.
Yeah, see this? Now it all makes perfect sense.
That's weird.
You love it when a plan comes together. I fed the mayonnaise to the tuna fish immediately, Mr. Whitaker.
It's not just a clever name.
Yes, yes. And that being said, in grand fashion, they're doing the giveaway tonight. They are doing the like and share giveaway tonight. Omnia Fishing. Brad Novak, the super genius man-child at Omnia Fishing, and Jake Haas, he's our intern here at Straycast. They put together a wingding of a prize. And so basically what it is you like and share the live Facebook feed, and then you get a $50 coupon online certificate to go shopping on Omnia Fishing and Straycast tonight. You get that tonight. So like and share the live Facebook feed. At the end of the show, Jay Kaz puts it in a randomizer, and one of these guys are going to announce the winner.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Exactly. Exactly. The other part of it is if you go to omniafishing.com and go on the homepage and click on the Straycast logo. It looks just like that logo on right behind me right there that Ryan Whitaker's brother made. That's awesome. That's been with us for 6 seasons. Thank you, Ryan Whitaker's brother. If you click on that and sign up an account on Omnia Fishing under the Straycast Ambassador account, you get entered in a super mega hella auction that I don't even know what's going on. Believe me, you just want to do it. You want to do it. It's that good. It's that good.
This is all on the internet.
This is all on them interwebs. You just www.
As you said, the computer web.
On the computer web. Yes, sirree, Bob.
Good.
Yes, sirree, Bob. Ladies and gentlemen, that voice that you hear returning to Season 6 of Straycast Outdoor Cartoon Television, the glorified version of a bass fishing talk show, is Ryan Popcorn, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Whitaker.
Yo.
Yes.
Yo.
Welcome.
6 years, man.
6 years, Rye.
Wow.
You believe this?
No.
My gosh.
Not at all.
We've been hooting and hollering for a little bit now.
Yeah.
A little bit now.
Pretty crazy, man.
And Ryan, congratulations to you and JP High on the introduction of the new Tightrope Baby Super Firework Edition jig. Congratulations,
Thank
guys. You worked your ass off to finally get that jig to the public, and we're going to tell you some more about it later. But I want to congratulate you now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
And the best part about that jig is it catches fish.
It does. Yeah.
That's all it is.
That's the only reason I made it. I didn't want to sell it.
You know what works when you don't catch fish, Rye?
Like smacking the water with your rod tip really
Well,
hard.
that's Ike,
Yeah.
but
A lot of swearing.
No, but a lot of times you see that old little bottle of this come out.
Oh, yeah. That was part 3.
Yeah. So, and I see that you're working on a couple of them over there.
Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, we welcome back to Straycast Season 6, Tin Cup Whiskey. Yes.
Yeah.
The Tin Cup professional fishing team is building. It is building and progressing. And Ryan,
Yep.
we have a little game here on Straycast.
Oh, yeah, we have a game.
We have a little game here. And
Yeah.
and again, this is the Tin Cup Whiskey word of the week. When we say, or anyone says this word, take a little sippy. It doesn't have to be Tin Cup. It could be any beverage of your choice. And we remind you to please drink responsibly. And Ryan, what do you think that word should be today?
What else could it be than legend?
Legend. Okay.
What else could it be?
2 legends
This show?
on the deal tonight.
Yeah.
2 legends. There it is.
It's going to be said by you.
All right, I'm stopping right there. So the Tin Cup Whiskey word of the week is
Legend.
legend. If you see that, here's a salute. And again, please drink responsibly. Ladies and gentlemen, returning this year also is Half a Spot Official. If you got a spot, you half a share it on Half a Spot. That's right. Half a Spot Official. Hey, download the app on your iPhone or Android. Also, check out halfaspotofficial.com and share your spots with your friends. I know that's like an oxymoron of things that we do in bass fishing, but sometimes. But pay it forward. Pay it forward. Andy, do I have ever? Oh, my goodness gracious, I don't. This is so important. I scared Andy. Did you see? No, my gosh. First off the bat, how ridiculous of me. I'm talking to the gentleman who is the most extraordinary engineer producer in the business. He's right on the head like a producer should be. Andy Ellenberger, the Ginger Ninja. Andy.
Hi.
Ka-chow!
What's up?
Yes, you're double plied over there, and I love it. You're double plied. How you feeling, Andy?
Great.
6 seasons, bud.
I know I'm ready for this one though.
6 seasons. Rick Clunn and Mike Iaconelli.
It's always a good time.
So it's no secret that that my man crush is Rick Clunn and yours is Mike Iaconelli.
True, it's a
So it's like you know
We're
a little-
Eskimo
we're a little
brothers on
giddy,
our man
yeah.
crush. Actually.
you guys are Eskimo Bassin brothers. That's outstanding. Andy, dude, 6 seasons, man. And I want to tell you something, Andy. You suit up and show up every gosh dang week and kick ass, bud. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And so does the Bass Galaxy.
We try, man. We try.
Yeah,
Yes,
you
sir.
do. I just need you to be more aggressive. Like, be louder and get like angry. I mean, be like, like take control. Grab the horn by the bulls.
Maybe
You know?
some button-up warm-up pants you can rip off before the show
and
or
get all
something.
wild and get
You got your corner.
and
Do
get
whatever
all
you
wild.
want.
But here's the deal. This is Andy, we have something special worked up for the audience at the end of the show, and we apologize if you watched our New Year's Eve Proper Bassin' Man special. By the way, the Adventures of the Proper Bassin' Man TV show with myself, Seth Fighter, and Matt Robertson coming to you, summer of 2021. Anyway, Mr. Pete Fighter at the end of this show is giving away some magical, mystical. Pete Fighter's magic.
Some rocks?
The Pocket Rock.
The Pocket Rocks.
He's giving away the Pocket Rock tonight. Don't go anywhere. The winner's announced at the end of the deal. This is going to be a crazy, crazy show. Put the power poles down. Don't go anywhere. Bass Galaxy, it's Rick Clunn when we get back. Rick Clunn. Can I say that again? Bass Galaxy, when we come back, it's Rick Clunn. Wow.
Nobody wants to run out of power when they're on the water. There is a better way. Introducing the Charge Marine Power Management Station from PowerPole that does the work of 3 devices: a traditional battery charger, a charge on the run, and an emergency start system. PowerPole Charge.
The all-new XF series by Crestliner. Simplistic perfection with performance features built on a platform for success. The amazingly affordable XF series by Crestliner. A brand new way to reel in bass. For more information and to find your local dealer, visit Crestliner.com.
The TH Marine Hydrowave H2 KVD Edition is a surefire way to ignite a feeding frenzy. The Hydrowave utilizes a sound-emitting technology that imitates bait fish and other feeding fish below the surface that preys on the competitive nature of bass and other game fish to get you more bites. The Hydrowave is another way that TH Marine has you covered from transom to trolling motor.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bass Fishing Galaxy, welcome back. I'm your host, Pat Renwick, and at this time, I couldn't be more honored or elated to bring to you the one and only. Please give it up, Bass Galaxy, for the legend, Rick Clunn. Yes. Hi, Rick.
Hello.
How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm sitting here, 43 degrees, looking out over a beautiful, well, it's actually dark, but I can visualize it, a beautiful Ozark Creek. So it couldn't be a whole lot better.
Man, this is amazing for us. I want you to know, and just so I could paint a little picture and preface with the phone conversation you and I had earlier today, and I said, Rick, are you kidding me? You're actually going to be outside on your balcony talking to everyone? And you said, what did you say to me, Rick?
Well, I said, I live pretty far out in the woods, and it's, you know how people have those little X's now everywhere, so you make sure you're social distancing. Well, I have actually on my deck a little X that I have to be sitting by to get reception. So it that's the only choice I have.
That's outstanding.
Wow.
and I said, man, it's gonna be cold, dude. Are you sure you want to go through that? And you basically like laughed at me and said, I got a tournament in a couple weeks. Yeah, this is fine. I thought that
Gotta
was
get conditioned.
Yeah, you're getting conditioned, man. I mean, that's amazing.
No, it's all about acclimation.
Yeah, yeah, and you are quite about acclimation. Let's say you have acclimated well over the years, Mr. Clunn, and I don't. I mean, you obviously have to realize how big of an influence you are to pretty much every angler on the planet right now. Anyone can argue with that. I don't care if they don't even know who you are for some reason. Something they're doing in angling is something from you. Does that make sense, Rick? Does that a realization?
Well, sadly, I don't realize that. I can't, and I can't. I'm reminded of that quite often when you do go to shows or you get a certain email or you meet some young kid, and all of a sudden he starts telling you how you've influenced him as an angler, as an outdoorsman, as a conservationist, and it just hits me so hard that I will never meet most of the people that hopefully have been reconnected to the outdoors just because of me being an angler.
Yeah, and that, just think about the tremendous amount of energy that brings with it, Rick. Think about it. That is just the entire bass galaxy conveying that energy to you. Is it possible to feel that as a human?
I think it is, especially when you're in the presence of other people that understand. There's two types of people that come up. There's people that worship you, and then there's people who respect you. The worshipers bother me because it makes me feel like they think I'm better than them, and I'm not. The people who respect me do give back a very positive energy of mutual respect, and I do appreciate that immensely. But you know, the first time I ever felt that energy, really felt it, was in 1984 when we were at the Bassmaster Classic in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and it was the first drive-in weigh-in we ever had. Governor of Arkansas was there, Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
Vice President of the United States was there, George Bush. And all of a sudden that final day when I was taking those fish out of the live well, how loud that crowd got, the energy literally was making me all feel like I was floating inside my boat.
That's
And
amazing.
for the first time, I realized what the Beatles must feel at a concert.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, that is just it's unfathomable to me to be able to feel that. But Rick, I kind of want to tell you real quick before we dig into things. To me, you are an inspirer. You are one of the four anglers that has influenced my life, not only in angling, but in life path. And I mean that most sincerely. You have made my life better by your example, and I hope that you take that how I mean it, if that makes sense.
No, thank you. And I think ultimately when it all comes, when you roll it all up into one big, thing toward the end, that's all you can hope is that those people you've been around in some way, small way, that you've made their life better. And that applies to everything people do in whatever walk of life they're in. And, it's just, so Dylan, I do appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Real quick, 1986. Rick Clunn, I have posters of you in my room and Mick Jagger. Okay, I mean, dude, you're inspiring. Okay, 1990. I remember trading. I won't tell on myself, but maybe trading some things I shouldn't have traded for RC2s and RC3s. Okay, I don't know how else to put it. I traded contraband for RC2s and RC3s. Rick,
Yeah, I hooked the shotgun one time just to get to a classic. So
you did what?
I had to pawn my shotgun just to get to one of the classics to have the money. So I understand.
See, okay, and in 2000, when you just went on that streak with the Balsa B3s, I was making $500 a week in the year 2000, Rick, and I spent a month's salary of my money on Balsa B3s in 09 in chartreuse blackback because of you. So thank you for that. Now here's the real turn, man. 2007, I got your manuscripts from your angling course, and it didn't at that time affect me, but it was in my brain. And in 2013, I had a life-changing experience that allowed me to implement a lot of your inspiration into my life. And that's enough about me. But thank you so much, Rick Clunn, for your guidance in my life path. Thank you. All right. Enough of that. Let's get on to you, Mr. Clunn. You doing okay, man?
Yeah, I'm stuck on those posters you had on the wall, and I'm just amazed that you didn't have a Playboy bunny on there or something.
Well, I'll tell you, those were no, those were under the bed, Rick. I'm sorry. I mean, if we want to get real about it. But anyway, that's the conversation you and I'll have at an event this year. How's that, Rick?
We can skip that.
Hey, I want to talk about you and the evolution of Rick Clunn, okay? And my first question to you is, let's go to 1976, Bassmaster Classic, and your victory. And then we're going to also jump to 2019 and your victory on the St. Johns River. And my question to you is, tell me about each Rick Clunn. And what I mean by that is, in your stage of angling, I want to know how you were, or how you could describe your angling and describe your life in 1976, and then describe your angling and describe your life in 2019. You following me?
Yeah, that's a lot. My life at that point was probably rock bottom, financially speaking. I'd lost my house, and I had to move into a little $125 a month rent house on the lake that I was trying to guide on, which was Lake Conroe. And it was a young lake, and nobody knew who Rick Clunn was, so I wasn't getting that much, that many customers. And at the same time, I realized that when I was what most people would look at as completely failed in what I was attempting to do, and I liked myself more than I ever had in my whole life, which even surprised me.
Wow.
Because I actually, because I had kind of, when I quit Exxon Oil Company, I was working for the second largest computing center in the world. Most people know that by now. I mean, they've heard the story. But I left there with no real good economic plan and quit my job and started fishing. But I did lie to myself and say, okay, after 3 years, I learned in college that after 3 years, if your business don't work, then you can at least give it 3 years. If it doesn't work, then you can go back to something else. And I knew I could go back to systems and computing work. But at the same time, when that 3 years was up, which was 1976, and I had failed, I knew I was never going back.
Huh.
I knew that the path I was on, I would continue to be on. And so, but at the same time, and I was proud of myself for that feeling, that I was really, truly following my heart. I wasn't letting some materialistic, economic, even social ideology affect my path. I was following my own path, and but at the same time, I realized, and I was realizing because I was really starting to get into the mental side of what I did, that I had to take more control over my outcome. In the beginning, you know how all tournament guys are. We hope we pull in that magical cove, which are nothing but 5-pounders are schooling in, and we win the tournament. Well, after 3 years, I realized that doesn't happen very often. And so I realized there had to be a more of a science to what I was doing. And that's when I really started studying the science of it more. And also I knew that the mental part of human beings controlled so much of their destiny in life. And so I really got into studying that. And that was at least the start of it.
And that was 76, you're right then, when it happened?
Yeah, 1976. And that's when the real mental and scientific part of my journey really began in the right direction.
Would you call it would you call it a calling, Rick? Could it be a calling?
I wouldn't have called it that back then. And it was really, you got to divide 1976 into pre-1976 and post-1976.
Okay.
Pre-1976, I was desperate. I knew I had to come up with something. And that's when I went back and studied the classics before that. I said, there has to be something going on here that I'm missing. All these classics were in October. They were always, but they were in different lakes in the country, Lake Mead, Clark Hill, I forget all of them, but those previous ones. And I'd already fished 2 classics in 74 and 75. And so then that's when I came up with the seasonal patterns that you read about later in Angler's Quest. Was these patterns repeat themselves no matter where you're at. Yeah. And I really started, and then when I fished the classic, it proved it to me big time. Because I won the classic the same way every classic had been won prior to that, except Currituck Sound. And because that Currituck Sound wasn't a man-made impoundment. And so from that point on, that was kind of an epiphany.
That's a revelation. Wow.
Yeah.
So I knew I was on the right track, and nobody else was doing that. And so then, and also in a show shortly after that, I was flying out to San Francisco, and I went into a bookstore waiting on my plane. And this sounds like a TV movie, but this really happened. I was looking through the bookstore, and all of a sudden a book falls out of the bookshelf at my feet. And I reached down and picked it up, and it was Magic of Your Mind by U.S. Anderson. And I started reading it, and all the light bulbs in my brain started going off.
Wow.
And I immediately understood. And from that point, that book led me to another, and it was endless for 4 or 5 years. So that was really 76 was when everything kind of changed around. Now my style of fishing was what it was then when I won the classic, and what it remained to be for 25 years after that. It was, I'm going to find 2-pounders faster than anybody, and I'm going to catch more of them. And in a multi-day tournament, that I wasn't worried about catching big fish. The limit was the key. And because back then we had 7 fish and 10 fish limits.
Okay.
So that was my style, was numbers. My style would have fit very well into the MLF style right now. But it is not my style anymore.
I see. And you did a lot of winding. I mean, you were still a winder then. But
I was covering tons of water, reading patterns, reading conditions. And like I said, I was looking for fish that nobody else would have found back then.
So this is the part,
and I could get in huge concentrations.
That's what the part I don't understand on your 2-pound philosophy. How did it change from the time you went to the big fish philosophy? Were you patterning different type fish? Were you looking for, obviously bigger schools? Is that an obvious answer? I mean, what differentiated the change? You're still winding. You're still throwing winding baits. What's the difference?
Well, usually change occurs when what you're doing doesn't work. any
Okay.
longer.
All right.
And a lot of us ignore that and eventually just have to get out of the game. I didn't want to get out of the game yet. And so I said, I can't ignore this. I have to evolve. I can see it's changing. I can weigh a 2-pound limit every single day of every tournament this coming year, and I won't even be in the top 50
Right.
in any of them. And so that old style was now being taken over by a new style that was slowly moving into bass fishing. And of course, the 5-fish limit helped this new style. The first person that ever brought that new style in was D. Thomas out of California.
Sure.
And he
The
fished the
flipper.
BASS State tournament on Bull Shoals right here where I live now. And there was a foot of snow in the boats when we got up that morning. And D. Thomas won it. And hardly anybody was catching any fish. And D. Thomas won it, flipping through sawdust. We'd never heard of that.
That's right.
We didn't even have big jigs. We didn't even have, so everybody was putting 3 and 4 half-ounce sinkers together to try to get through the sawdust that he was flipping through. And so that's when it started, but again, I was slow to take hold. My technique still continued to work, for several more years. But then slowly, other things happened, the flippers, the swim bait guys, and just the electronics started to change. So you were fishing areas and things that you were never really fished before. And so I realized my technique doesn't work anymore, and I don't want to quit the game. So somewhere in in the 2000s, I knew I had to start changing, and I started changing. And I have had, and I'm getting better. I'm still not there,
Right.
but I probably call as many at the top level, it's as many 30-pound plus 5-fish limits now as most anybody at the top level of angling. But I've also zeroed a lot
Yeah.
because so now what I'm trying to do is balance the two together.
And it's evident by the success of your wins in 16 and 19. And let's bring us now to your 2019 victory. So now you've implemented this new philosophy of yours because the other one wasn't working. And I know I skipped 16, but we're bringing it to the state of Rick Clunn in 2019. So basically, where was your life then, and what phase of your angling were you in then?
Well, my life as a non-competitor was great. I've always had good sponsors. I've always had great support from family. I live where I want to live, but at the same time, but the life as a competitor was really, challenging. And I knew that no competitor can go out there and keep throwing interceptions the whole game. Okay. And so you either quit that or you figure out how not to do that. And so that's what I basically did. And fortunately, it started to kind of come together at the Falcon tournament that Keith Combs won.
Yes.
And I was second.
In
I had
second
over
place.
105 pounds, and I caught one day 5 fish that weighed 32 something, and the next day I caught 5 that weighed 37 something. And that's when it finally, I finally say, because so much of my early deals and changing the way I was fishing, was based on, in my early career, 90% of every day was spent trying to catch a limit, and only 10% was spent trying to catch the big fish, the kicker fish. Well, at Falcon, by then I'd already started trying to do this in tournaments, and most of the time it wasn't turning out well. Well, now I'm switched from 90% of my day, I'm fishing for the big ones, and I'm only giving my limit fish 10% of the day.
Gotcha.
And of course, big fish are a lot more of a challenge than 2-pounders. Everybody knows that fishes. But at Falcon, it finally came together, and I put together a couple of the key things I was doing wrong. And it's not going to blow anybody's brain away, because all I had to do was slow down. Because I could find areas that held fish, and I could find areas that maybe in practice I'd catch 1 or 2 big ones. So that tells you that the big fish live in that area. Now, how many, you don't know. But at least you're in an area that has big fish. But in my past, I would always blow through them, even during the tournament. But at Falcon, I got in those areas and I slowed down. And the first day I did terrible, even though I knew we were there. But I only had 4 fish that weighed 12 pounds. And I ended up in the 4-day tournament weighing over 105 pounds with the 12-pound first day.
Wow.
So basically, I caught almost 85 pounds the next 3 days.
It's insane.
But it's still, and it was just slowing down. And it was slowing down and staying in the area where the big fish were until that little magical window opened that they fed. And, of course, now getting to 2016 and 19, that's exactly what I did there. I put the power post. I'd get in the areas where I knew there were some big fish I'd found in practice, and I would put the power post down, and I would fan cast every area, and then I'd move 10 yards forward, put the power post back down, and I'd fan cast every area where I thought the big fish were. And when you do that, that window opens, and you understand what's causing that window open for these fish to feed. The problem is a lot of times the window opens in the old days, and I'd be running between spots, or I'd be giving up on a spot and be trying to find another one. Well, now I try to stay in those areas where I know there's a population of decent fish, and I really work it hard, and I rarely leave it. And then finally, like at 2016 and 2019, I knew what the window was, what I was waiting on. But I sure wasn't going to be running someplace else when it opened. I was going to be on those big fish, and I was going to slow down. And where now in those areas, let's say it's 100 yards long of grass beds or something like it is in St. Johns River, it would take me normally about 10 minutes to get through that area in my old days. Now it would take me an hour to get through it.
Gotcha.
So it's really just more of a speed deal.
Slow down.
I figured that it was a bait deal as well, but it wasn't as much of a bait deal as I thought. Now, don't get me wrong, big baits do make a difference.
Sure, and we'll get into that. But I found it fascinating that you said you spend 10% of the day going for the limit, and then the other 90's on the bigs. I never heard you put it exactly like that, Rick, and I think that's pretty cool, man. I mean, that's a winning philosophy.
Well, most people need more than 10% of the day to catch a limit, too.
That's true. That's true, man. Hey, Rick, we always hear you talk about blind spots, okay? And I guess that and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but blind spots are overlooked areas, right?
They used to be.
Okay. Well. Maybe see, because I'm thinking about something, and maybe I'm onto something. I don't know, but I learn from my own blind spots by watching and listening to other professional anglers. Like for example, we had Chris Zaldane on the show, and I don't know if you guys remember, but Chris said that you gave him advice once, and it was regarding one of his blind spots, and you told him, Chris, I see you keep losing those big fish. Just keep them coming. Just keep winding was the advice that you gave Zaldane. Now, he did not see that, yet you did. Is that a blind spot too?
Oh, well, it's a blind spot in your mind, yeah.
Okay.
The one you were referring to earlier, I put in Angler's Quest, was more of a physical blind spots. But yeah, but that's a good point. They exist both, in the real world and in your brain.
Yeah, and a physical blind spot in your definition is what?
The best example I can give you, and Angler's Quest was written 20 years ago, and back then things are not like they are now in the fishing world. But back then, the blind spots could be, when you drive down to the lake, through the lake, most anglers, that when they're running their boat down the lake, their brain is going from one side to the other looking, and they'll look over there and see some lily pads, and they'll go, good spot. They'll look over here and see nothing, bad spot. Look over there and see rocky points, good spot. Look over here and see not anything as boring stuff, nothing. Look over there and see timber. Wow, that's a good spot. And look over here and there's nothing. So a lot of that blind spots are initially just visual stuff you see running down the lake. The other thing that created blind spots were shortcuts. if you're running a long run down the lake, we're going to take the shortest cut getting up there. But everybody else does that. Just like with the visual stuff, everybody else's brains, or at least most fishermen's brains, interpret what is good to fish the same. We're looking at visual stuff. And of course, now the world of depth finders has also given us another instrument to do the same thing. If you look side scan and you don't see anything but a flat desert out there, that's a blind spot. I mean, that is doesn't look good. So those are the blind spots that I was referring to in the Angler's Quest, with actual things that people ignored.
Gotcha.
The best blind spot ever for me was the Pine Bluff Harbor in 1984 again.
Yes.
That was a blind spot even to the locals. I mean, the local boy that found me the first day with the camera boat, he came up to me and said, "I got to tell you something." He said, "If I hadn't watched you fish, I would have swore you cheated."
Wow.
And he said, because nobody's ever caught fish where you caught those fish. My granddad's fished this river his whole life. My dad fished this river his whole life. I fished this river his whole life. And of course, that fascinated me when he said that. And I said, I wonder why. And then I really started studying the area. And if you use that simple example that I said, driving down the lake, you look for what's good and what's bad. Nothing about it looked good. Everybody else wanted to go to Brody Bend or Coal Pile, where you had cypress trees and logs and lily pads. And the Pine Bluff Harbor just kind of got ignored. And especially where I caught them was even the worst looking part of the whole Pine Bluff Harbor. So that's kind of was an example. But nowadays, with the amount of information we have on lakes, it's quality information, the amount of GPS and Google Earth we have, the amount of the kind of electronics we have, those blind spots are really don't exist as much anymore. We broke those bad habits. Let me put it that way.
Okay. Okay. And maybe now on to some new blind spots to better ourselves as anglers, or overcoming blind spots. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point about the mental thing with the Zaldane, because, at the Lake Fork, I lost the second day. I had 29 pounds 4 ounces lead the first day. And then my third fish of the second day was a giant, another giant. I had 8-9 the first day, and he was every bit that big, and I think bigger. Of course, we all do. But anyway, he jumped, and then he came up by the boat, and it came up one more time, and I make eye contact every time, and that fish was mine. When I make eye contact, and he's got all of his hooks in the mouth, that's my fish. I just don't do something stupid. But he came off.
Uh-oh.
And again, don't know why he came off. All of a sudden, the bait just floated to the top, and I just had steady pressure on him. But I called Takahiro, and Takahiro did the same thing to me that I did with Zaldane. Takahiro is so observant. He goes, "You know why that fish came off, don't you?" And I go, "No." He said, "Don't you know back when it came?" He watched the film. When it came out of his mouth and your bait flows up, your line was caught in the treble hook, the back treble hook.
Oh,
He
gotcha.
said, basically, he evidently had moved around and got your line caught in the hook.
And
essentially,
leveraged.
I pulled the hook out.
You fulcrumed
with
it.
the line.
You pulled his tooth.
But I never noticed that. So yeah, there's all kinds of blind spots.
Yeah, right. Wow. And just amazing that Takahiro noticed that too. He's one of your students, Rick, for those that don't know. He took the course. He was there with you, man.
Right.
And that's just
Yeah,
another reason.
I'll never forget when he came in the house and he saw my classic trophies, and he asked me if he could pick one up, and he did. I said, "Sure, Doc," and he picked it up, and he went into this trance, and he put it over his head with his eyes closed, and just held it over his head for, several seconds, and he put it down. I mean, the minute he did it, I knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
He was visualizing him holding the Classic World Championship trophy, and sure enough, the next year he did it.
Look at
So
Awesome.
I
Neat.
got goosebumps, dude. That's freaking awesome. I don't care. Hey, man, time on the water makes us better anglers, right, Rick Clunn? Right?
absolutely.
Okay. All right. So my question to you is, what is something that we can do to capitalize our learning experience on the water? So in other words, everyone says time on the water is the key to being a better angler. Yet some people spend time on the water and don't become better anglers. What are they missing? What are they missing, Rick?
Everybody's doing it for a different reason, so it's a very difficult thing to give an absolute answer to that question, because some people are not out there to become the greatest fisherman ever. Some people are out there just to enjoy everything. And to become the best fisherman you can become, that has to be your reason for being out there. Okay. And if not, that's okay. If you want to just go out and enjoy the day and enjoy the sun and, just fish the bait you want to fish, whether they're biting it or not, but it's your favorite bait, that's okay. But if you want to master angling and master what you're doing, then that's why you go. That's what you have to be aware of when you go in the water. Gotcha. And you got to be, even on the day, there's something you have to be learning, every minute you're out there. And you got to understand why that worked and why that didn't work. At the end of the day, if you didn't catch a fish, you gotta realize how much you learned that day. Because more often than not, we learn more on our bad days than we learn on our good days. Our good days kind of cloud our view, but because we think it's easy then. But knowing that it's not easy, that you got to keep working at it and studying it, and there's the science. You have to learn the science,
and it's self-awareness, I guess.
You got to be able to execute it.
Yeah, man. The Rick, and like, if you are not aware of your own angling abilities or mistakes that you make on the water, there's no growth. There's just none.
Yeah, well, no, there's not. I have a son, and he some people's minds can absorb things very, very fast, and he's kind of got one of those kind of minds. One of the most, everybody can mention amazing things, amazing anglers, but one of the most amazing things about Kevin Van Dam for me, and also Skeet Reese, can you guess what it is?
I don't know. They're smart.
Decision making?
Well, but that's not what it is.
Okay.
You're right. What it is, they don't spend a lot of time on the water.
Oh. Okay.
And they've always been anomalies to me, because, especially it pisses me off when I realize how often I got to be on the water to learn something, and they seem to be able to absorb it very quickly and then make it work.
So they're smart.
So they got a different mind than I have,
Yeah. Okay. There it is.
Yeah.
They can
you're
soak it
fishing
in
more instinctually, and maybe they're setting a game plan.
Soaking it in.
It's many things, and I don't have a perfect answer to it. I think they are more. They're not. They're very intuitive, but they're not conscious of it.
Okay.
Okay, and that's the two things you have to be in fishing. You got to be very intellectual and know how to use that knowledge, but you have to never allow it to be your master. Your intuition has to be the master. If it isn't, you're never going to be any good. Okay, and not great anyway. And so I know that they use their intuition, but it's operating at a what they call, I forget what it is. It's a name. It's conscious. Where they're not consciously competent at the intuitive level, but that's okay. But they're still allowing it to be the master. And I was told that a long time ago by a friend of mine. He says, you're not consciously competent. You're unconsciously competent. And so I think they're consciously competent when it comes to the intellectual knowledge.
Wow.
But they're not consciously competent when it comes to intuition. And so they have to, my point is, they could be even greater than they are if they were.
Intuition is the master.
I just wrote that down.
Well, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Rick, I want to talk to you about your tools of the trade, okay? And I've watched them as a fan of the sport, and as a fan of you, Rick Clunn. I've watched them change over the years. And I just got a couple years written down here. And the first one is the 76 Classic. And let me back up a minute. I kind of would like you to tell us about the particular rod and reel and line and bait combination you were using at the time. And the reason being is the progression into I see a difference between 76 and 2019. Not only scientifically, of course, that's the obvious, but I'm talking about your kind of the way I think you looked at stuff. So in 76, you won the Gville Classic. What was that? Was it a honeybee and a spinner bug, right?
Yeah, spinnerbait.
Okay. And what was the rod and reel combination at that time you were throwing it on?
Well, this is almost a gigantic mistake I made. It's going to come to surface. Right before that Classic, I didn't have any money. And all my rods were old pistol grip, Fuji, fiberglass rods, and I'd broken them and I put new tips on them. But
Matt Robertson.
Right before that, do what?
Not like a buddy of ours, Matt Robertson.
No, he just cuts them off.
Yeah, he just cuts the same thing. But hey, I'm sorry.
I mean, that's what I was doing. But one of the first Skyline graphite rods was the first graphite I ever saw. And they sent every contestant in the 76 Classic 6 brand new Skyline rods.
I remember the orange and black, right, Rick? It was like an orange and black.
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
And so I took them with me, and I didn't even take any of my old rods with me. And it almost cost me the Classic. And it was, the final day, the first day, I only weighed, that was a 10 fish limit. I don't know if anybody remembers that.
Yes.
It was, 10 fish limit. And the first day, I only weighed in 7 fish that weighed 12 pounds. And I lost 5 others, which I was totally upset because I wasn't used to losing fish. But just keep in your mind, I've changed equipment. And I at that point, I wasn't putting that much importance into the equipment, I guess. And so the next day is when I caught the giant bag. And, I caught those on a spinnerbait, and they just were swallowing it. And then I went back to my honeybee, and that's what I lost all the fish on the first day. And I went back to honeybee, got a limit, and ended up weighing 30-something pounds that day. The third day, the final day, I never had another big bite after that. So I ran back to my little fish, the honeybee fish, and it was a riprap, the same riprap pretty much that Hank Cherry won the Classic on last year.
Wow. Okay.
And anyway, I was going up and down that riprap, and I was throwing the honeybee, and I would stop it. The water for that year was a little bit off color. It was at Winter Pool. That was an October tournament. And I'd stop it, and I'd feel them hit it, and I'd set the hook, and I lost the first 3 or 4 in a row. And I'd go, and remember, I'm broke. I had to hawk a shotgun to get to this Classic.
Sure.
So I wouldn't even have been.
Yes.
And so I'm blowing it. But I also remember Einstein's saying half of the insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Insanity, yeah.
And so the next fish, fortunately they were schooled up, so I kind of knew when my bites were coming. I threw it, I reeled it down, I stopped it, and when I felt the tap, instead of setting the hook immediately, I pushed the rod toward the fish, and then I set the hook, and I caught every fish after that. They swallowed it. So that's my first learning about how sensitive graphite was.
Yeah.
As as I was, the minute I felt them inhale that bait on those fish I lost, I was setting the hook and I was pulling it out of their mouth. But then after that, like I said, every time I felt that thump, I just pushed the rod tip toward the fish, and I had every one of them. So I was using monofilament back then, and so I pretty much everything else I was using was what I was used to using. But I made my
change the
point
rod
here is be careful of that you understand your equipment, and when you develop a system that's working, don't change it.
Gotcha. So, and then I saw an evolution though. So, okay, obviously there was a little problem with the Skyline graphite at the time, and let's jump to let's say the 1990 Bassmaster Classic, and that was Pose, right? That was your Pose baits that you used then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And what was was that the Daiwa years with the rod and reel then? Was that like the Daiwa Rick Clunn cranking
Yes.
rods? Okay, tell me about those,
Right.
please.
Well, there's a step in between those that after I had the experience with the back end, I was getting even the Skyline graphic rods were short-handled rods
Yes.
that they sent me. And I was still using short-handled rods, 6.5 foot versions. I went back to glass, but I was still using those. But then a young angler named Gary Klein came out of California, and we got to be friends. And he asked me one time, he said, Rick, I want you to teach me how to fish crankbaits, because he was a flipper at D. Thomas. He was a student at D. Thomas.
Yes.
And he was a flipper, and so I said, okay. So we went out and we were throwing crankbaits, and I still used my little short rods. And about a third of the way through the day, he picks up one of his flipping sticks, which were all custom-made glass 7-foot rods, long handle, and he ties on the crankbait. And I'm looking at him like, what the hell does he think he's doing? You know. And anyway, first thing I noticed was how effortlessly he could cast a crankbait further than me, you know, and it was effortlessly with that longer rod. And so then we started catching a few fish, and I said, let me try that. So anyway, that's how, then from that point on, I went to long handle rods, because I had bad shoulders from high school football. And the other thing I noticed about that long handle rod, I wasn't making a cast like a baseball player. My arm motion wasn't like a baseball player with that short handle rod. It was that, you know how it is when you have a handle, you don't have that motion. It's a completely different motion with that long handle.
Of course.
And that long handle elongated my career by my shoulders at least by 10, 15 years. But anyway, that's how I went to Daiwa eventually, because when I went to look for those custom-made rods, they didn't exist. I ended up buying some saltwater speckled trout rods, 7-foot ones down in Houston, and that's what I used for several years until Daiwa came along. Then they designed the Daiwa rod off from it. And yes, at the 1990 Classic, I was throwing a 7-foot glass Daiwa rod.
Yeah. I remember it well, man.
Did I get that right? The crank rod ended up being Klein's flipping rod? Is that what I heard? Did I get that right? You're cranking with Klein's flipping rod?
Yeah, he was using a flipping rod. He didn't know anything about cranking, but he picked up one flipping rods and he started tying crankbaits on. And the beauty of a child like mine, you know, and said, I'm going to try this long rod. I think I can throw it further. And it was easier, and it didn't put as much strain on your shoulder. You can make 2,000 casts a day and not kill your shoulders.
Wow.
So
this is awesome.
So I couldn't find those, but so I actually went to a saltwater store in Houston, and they had long handle popping rods for catching speckled trout in saltwater.
That's amazing, man. And just so you know, another path that you have influenced me and many other anglers on is the glass rods or composite rods for cranking. Now, I go with that theory and principle for years and years, and here you come along in 2000, and you're throwing graphite again. Now you have the Bass Pro Shops. Let's take the Beaver Lake Derb, for example, that you won on the Balsa B3. Now you're throwing a graphite 7-foot rod, right, Rick?
Yeah, and no, you're dead right. First of all, nobody would make the glass rods for you, and because they didn't cost, their margin of profit on them wasn't a fourth of what it would be selling graphite, and that doesn't take any longer to make. But due to the mystique of that technology, they can charge more.
Gotcha.
So. So nobody would make it. After Daiwa, nobody would make it. I actually got Wright McGill to make me one for a little while, but they got rid of it in a year.
The blue one,
so
the blue one, yeah.
It forced me multiple times to try to find the next best thing. And so I basically started explaining to Bass Pro Shops what I needed in a glass rod. I mean, how could I best mimic a glass rod with these new high-tech materials? Because I could see where it was all headed, you know.
I got you.
So anyway, they did, and Daiwa did, and eventually, and then the Bass Pro did, and so yes, that's what you were observing. You were observing this slow evolution. I will not tell you that they're still 100% better than a glass rod is made correctly, but they're real close now if you get the right action.
But here's where I'm confused, and please clarify for me. Now let's jump to 2019, okay? Even 2016, Rick, to your win on St. John's, and you were winding the Trickster, which, by the way, thank you for the Trickster, Rick Clunn. Thank you for the Trickster. It's an amazing bait. Thank you. But now you threw me for a loop. Now you are using 7'6" heavy action flip sticks for everything. That's opposite of everything that you taught me as a kid. What happened? Why?
Well, there's something we've kind of missed in all this, and that earlier, the longer the rod gets, the more forgiving the graphite is. And you remember in the early days, I was throwing short rods, 6-footers, and they're not. When you went to graphite with them, they weren't as forgiving. I mean, everything about them was more sensitive, and your reaction time was so much faster. Which, if you're a good angler, that wasn't always a good thing. And so one of the things when I was going and trying to get Bass Pro and some of these other people to make a high-tech rod that mimicked the glass was that we kind of slowly learned that the longer we got, the better it mimicked it. But that's within reason, and it depends on your style.
Okay.
Your style really does control that too. If you're a fluorocarbon line person, you don't want to touch one of my rods, because they won't hold up. But if you're a mono person, then my rods are perfect because that's what they're designed for.
Gotcha.
So it's again, everything's a system. If you're an angler, you need your system. You got to find the right rod, you got to find the right reel, you got to find the right line, you got to find the right hooks, and then you got to fight the fish the right way. That's kind of the key components in my system. And if you got to find out which one of those work best for you, and when you get it working, don't change it. You think you change one thing in that system, and it'll break down.
Gotcha. Man, and you said hooks, those Ichikawa hooks, Rick, that you're dealing with now, and that Kong bait. Wow, you've been busy, huh? You've been in the science lab.
Well, yeah, it's the lure business, design-wise and production-wise and manufacturing-wise, and the fact that it's like a ping pong ball bouncing around the world. It's really hard to maintain the quality that you want, my experience now in 43 years is, as hard as I try to get good quality in other parts of the world, including this country, I cannot duplicate Japan. And so that's one of the reasons I've gone back to. Back then, you kind of had to leave Japan because of the price, But now, the serious angler, which I'm one of them, is buying stuff for money I wouldn't pay for it. There's swim baits being made in California at $200 a piece, and they sell them out in an hour. So
Yeah.
So my mind says, hey, go back where you've had the best success, the best quality. And so that's where the Ichikawa comes in with the hooks. Their hooks, and like I said, in the early days, I'd buy a hook and you'd have to take a sharpener to every one of them because you couldn't drive them in a board with a hammer. But now everybody's gone the other direction. Now all these hooks are really, really sharp. But they've gone too far that way in my experience with most of them, and it doesn't take much to bend the point over. It doesn't take much to break the point off. And that's where the Ichikawa is superior. The points of those things are more durable than any hook I've ever used. I'm bouncing square bills through rocks and everything, and eventually it's going to get all of those hooks. But this one has probably 3 times the life point-wise than any other hook I've ever used that's got those razor sharp points.
Man, and part of the system, I take it, right?
Oh, definitely. That's what I said. Right hooks.
Yeah, part of the
hooks,
system.
I can practice with unsharpened hooks, and I'm losing, several fish every day. But all I have to do is sharpen them, and I eliminate 95 or 99% of that.
Hey, Rick, man, I can't even tell you or put my mind around how much we're learning tonight. So this is a grasp. here. This is amazing.
Second
But
that.
I think we would be amiss if we didn't have a little fun before we got out of here. And what do you say we go on a little desert trip together, Rick? What do you think? You want to go?
Okay.
Let's do it. Let's
Love
go.
the desert.
Yeah, I know you do. And like, I got to tell you, I think that that you, for lack of a better way to put it, are a mystical person. Okay, I mean, you've been described that way, and I don't know if that's a good description, but we on this show we talk about spirit animals a lot. And for example, we had Denny Brower on not too long ago, and and he was on with Greg Hackney and Jason Christie.
Yeah.
Actually, and we asked Denny Brower what Jason Christie's spirit animal was, and he said a coot. Jason Christie was a coot, Rick. And yeah, and he sounds like Denny.
Yeah.
And he said that that Greg Hackney was a lion. So I ask you, what is your spirit animal, Rick? What are you?
Oh, that's pretty easy. But let me define mystical and spirit and stuff. One of the astronauts that went to the moon had a quote that the only difference between the ordinary and the extraordinary is a gap of missing knowledge in between. And the only thing that might make me mystical or make me what some people want to call some of these adjectives is that I'm just trying to fill in that gap of knowledge that's in between the ordinary and the extraordinary. And so, okay, I'll go. My spirit animal, I always look at as, and it's out of appreciation that I recognize that there's a lot better fishermen out there than I'll ever be. And so I actually have two, an osprey and a loon.
An osprey and a loon.
Yeah, because they are incredible fishermen. The loon can go to incredible depths to catch its fish, and the osprey can just snap them off the surface in an instant, and they make their live. That fish provides their survival. That fish provides their living. That fish provides their quality of life. Well, I'm no different. The fish does the same thing for me.
Yeah, is that the
Perfect.
promise? The promise of the loon?
Well, and I use the loon, in that quite a bit. That's trying to use kind of like they do Yoda in Star Wars.
Yeah. Wow. It all came back to me right there. I like that, man. Hey, you seem to have some sort of cosmic connection with swamps, rivers, and the desert. Does that seem like an accurate statement?
Let me think of the first two. I know the desert does, and I understand why on that one. Swamps and rivers is basically pretty much the same. They're kind of untamed wilderness.
Okay. Okay.
Even though we try to tame them, it's only temporary. And the desert is. I've always noticed that from my first U.S. Open I drove out to, that it's almost like if I was in a city and I worked in Houston for 7 years, my soul, my spirit, seemed to be hiding inside me somewhere deeply. But the minute I'd crossed Texas border into New Mexico, and I saw the wide open spaces, and then the minute when I stopped at the Grand Canyon, it became even more evident. My soul just expanded immediately out as hard as it could to fill that space up. And so I knew that's kind of places I need to be, because you shouldn't be locking your soul up deep inside you somewhere. But so yeah, those are. I know this may not be the fun you want it, but this is my opinions.
Dude, I'm loving it. I'm so blown away, man. It's I think it's. Do you consider yourself a spiritual person, Rick? Is that a dumb question? Like, do you have a higher power? Do you believe in God? Do you what is your belief, Rick?
Again, my belief is very Native American. I'm not Native American, but I share most of their respect of the world we live in the natural world. And they basically, their statement about God or spirit or whatever was, God was simply the spirit which moved through all things. And that's what I liked about that, that it was inclusive of all things. It wasn't a private club. It wasn't only a certain group were allowed to go to heaven. Only a certain group had God in them or had access. Theirs was very simple. It's the spirit that moves through all things. And so, and so that's kind of where I'm at. That's not always everybody's answer that they want to hear, but I'm too old to try to make up something else.
No, why? I mean, why? Why would you? That's a very pure answer, and that's the importance of that. I mean, unreal that actually. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, man. I think that there are things that we do not understand, and we're not supposed to understand. You know what I mean, Rick? Like, we'll never be able to grasp it as humans.
And that's the biggest mistake, I think, and a lot of that is we want to understand that. We want to think we understand it, but I'm not sure our brain is capable of fully understanding it. But now I'm going to contradict myself here, okay? There's a science of quantum mechanics, and there's a science of what we see now in the study of genetics that may be contradicting that. And this science is also really given the intuition that I've talked about earlier a whole lot more importance. And the science was that in the quantum mechanics, what exists in the universe exists in the microcosm, also exists in the macrocosm. In other words, but let's use genetics as a better understanding. Genetics now, they say we can go back in time, if we can find a piece of a dinosaur, within that one piece is the total makeup. It's the total information about that dinosaur. You know, the genetics now is amazing that one little thing contains within it the whole makeup of the human body. Well, if one cell in the human body contains the knowledge of the total human body, and we're one cell in the universe, quantum mechanics, then contained within us is the total knowledge of the universe. The question is, how do you access it? And that's what all the scientists fight so hard, like Einstein, to try to understand. And that's where, to me, what little I've learned about it, that's where intuition is by far the most important.
Intuition is the
Because
master.
it's already there. You don't know where it comes from. We just call it gut feeling, okay? But it's already there. We just all of a sudden have an epiphany. Golly, that's the way things work. That's the way I feel. That's what that person's trying to, if that person's right or wrong. So,
wow.
Anyway, that's as far as I'm going to go.
Yeah, no, that's good. My mind's blown already, man. But I got one more for you. Yeah, I mean, I got to ask you this because you wouldn't answer it for me last time I had you on the show, and you and I talked about it. I know you were on here a couple years ago, and you and I talked about it before at Lake St. Clair once, and it was about, you told me about total immersion and that you knew how to win every tournament that you fished, but it wasn't fair to the people that you loved. And I understand what you mean by that you basically have to focus on nothing but the bass, right? Is that it? Is that, I mean,
yeah, that's it. It's more complex than that. I mean, basically, all your energy has to be directed in one direction, and that means, I mean, all of it, and that means any other thing in your life has to be set aside.
In what years did you do that, Rick?
Pretty much 76 until I won the Redman All-American.
And that
which was like 88, 89, somewhere in there.
And you were nothing. You were all just hopped up on bassing and unidirectional and focused in that period.
Yeah, I was.
Wow.
And then I kind of had one of those epiphanies. Actually, the day I won the Redman All American on Lake Havasu, I was basically knew where the last fish was I needed to catch, and I was making a 30-mile run to go catch it. Caught it on the first cast. And believe me, I can't go into all the things I was doing at that point in time. The Germans have enough done on me when it comes to visualization and all that kind of stuff, and meditation and all that kind of stuff. But I was making the run back, and I made one cast. I caught the fish, and I knew the tournament was over, even though I only had 3 fish. And I knew the tournament was over, and all of a sudden, it's like this voice in my head said, okay, now you understand how it all works, but you can no longer use it just for honors and awards. And if I'd had brakes on that boat, I would have burnt rubber halfway up that lake stomping on them. But anyway, from that point on, I had to totally start reevaluating everything that I was doing.
Man, and that's a little historical tidbit right there, man. And Rick, I got to tell you, hey, your buddy Mike Iaconelli is waiting in the wings. By the way, he's coming on next.
Huh.
Old Ike, another
good.
Yeah, another inspirer.
He's in the green room.
Yeah, another inspirer. Hey, Rick, I need some advice from you to the entire bass fishing industry at this point in bassin history. Can you give the industry some advice, Rick?
That's a tough one because I think we're in a time now where there's just so many unknowns. The best example of that, I went through the oil embargo, and then I went through the 2008 semi-depression due to the financial institutions falling apart. And I saw what that did to the boat companies and the engine companies, and it just pretty well destroyed them. There were a few that were somewhat recession-proof, and actually bass boats were one of them, but they still got hurt. And then this year we had the pandemic, and I would have swore to you that the boat industry is going to get crushed again, and it went the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Everybody started buying boats. They went crazy. And so I'm not even going to pretend I could give that kind of advice because it's so unpredictable. The only thing that I can advise people on, and maybe we did learn something in the pandemic, that people started valuing experience more than material possessions. And even though a boat's a material possession, it's one that they wanted to give their family and themselves experiences. And that's the one thing I know that Bass Pro and I have worked on hard together is sell the ideal of adventures, giving your family adventures, because that's what they ultimately take to them to the grave. They don't take all the presents that they got this Christmas or last Christmas or the Christmas before. But they do take the hunting trips and the fishing trips.
Memories.
And we all have to be smart when money gets short. But if you're going to give up stuff, don't give up those family things of going outdoors and getting into recreation. And you might have to stay closer to home. But, to me, that's the only advice I can give them.
Gotcha, man. And well said, Rick. And again, thank you so much for the inspiration over the years, Mr. Clunn. And thank you again for coming on this show. Bass Galaxy, give it up one more time for the legend, Rick Clunn.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Rick, thank you so much.
One final statement, and I'm going to go because I'm getting cold out here on this little X on the deck.
I know you are. We thank you so much. I'll see you in Florida. We'll be warm. I'll see you at the first event, buddy.
Okay, but anyway, my final statement is just don't ever allow yourself to be an instrument of hatred.
Beautiful.
Bingo.
Beautifully
I'll talk to y'all later.
Thanks, Rick Clunn.
Thank you.
Don't ever allow yourself to be an instrument of hatred from Rick Clunn. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much, Mr. Clunn. Wow. Put the power poles down, Bass Galaxy. Don't go anywhere. Soak that in a minute. When we get back, it's another inspirer, Mike Iaconelli. See you in a minute. Wow.
This is the mountain, and this is mountain whiskey. Unspoiled, untamed, forever wild. There's no safety net, no way down. Up here, it's just man, and the mountain, and his tin cup. Tin Cup Whiskey. Mountain whiskey.
Minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff.
Step up your game. It has been said that professionals are only as good as the tools they work with, and Alpha Angler has developed the ultimate set of tools for you, the competitive angler. Alpha Angler custom rods, brought to fruition by the passion of master craftsman Jake Boomer and 2017 BASS Angler of the Year Brandon Palaniuk. Alpha Angler rods are custom made in the USA, designed and engineered to be perfect. Alpha Angler utilizes a very unconventional approach to making the very best bass rods, from drop shotting to flipping. Alpha Angler's focus is on building perfectly balanced tournament-grade bass rods at an affordable price. Join the Alphalution today and purchase direct at alphaangler.com. Step up your game. alphaangler.com.
Throw farther, get some Kevin Van Dam's line and lure. You can launch it a mile. Still going. Well, better stick to fishing.
As a professional angler, I rely on my equipment to be successful on the water, and my eyewear is no exception. Oh, yep, good one. 6-pounder, 7-pounder. From daylight till dark, every single day of my life, in the truck, on the water. My Amphibia eye gear provide 100% polarized protection. They're ANSI safety rated for impact, and best of all, they float.
Hey guys, Micah Frazier here. I've got a bait from War Eagle Baits called the Buzz Toad. Big thing lately has been putting a toad style bait on a buzz bait, and preferably it's my favorite way to fish one. This bait here's got a quick planing head, a great hook, and it squeals right out of the package. The body of this bait is big and bulky, so it allows you to skip it. It planes quicker than a skirted bait would. In my opinion, it's just the way to fish a buzzbait. So y'all check this thing out. It's pretty awesome.
We live for this. We live for taking on the water. No matter what the water brings. We live for earning our dinner with every cast. We live for making our own adventures and coming back with a live well full of fresh stories. Water has many forms, unique to everyone who takes to it. We build to bring you there. Crestliner, forged with strength, defined by durability.
Nice, dude.
Yeah, buddy.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to season 6, the glorified version of a bass fishing talk show. I'm your host, Pat Renwick, and at this time, he's there, but the video, you have to hit the video button. Ladies and gentlemen, we bring to you right now the one and only Jersey Devil, Mike Iaconelli. Mike Iaconelli. It's Mike Iaconelli. I think it's Mike Iaconelli. It might not be Mike Iaconelli.
Who is it?
Who is that? Are you there, Mike? Ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike Iaconelli. Hi, what are you doing? You're like the Bugs Bunny of Bassin sometimes, Mike. Hey,
how you doing, Pat?
I'm doing good, and thank you for your patience. Rick Clunn was talking. I don't know what else to say. I mean, unreal, dude. I mean, I know that he is an inspiration to all anglers, and especially you, man. And it was a pretty neat deal. But Mike, may I say that I hope you know that you are an inspirer as well. Do you realize that?
Thank you.
Well, yes. You look very mischievous right now, Mike. Are you up to something?
No. It's as I get older, my bedtime gets earlier and earlier. So it may be a glimmer of sleepy in my eye.
Okay. I like to interpret it as mischievous, though. Let's interpret it
mischievous.
Yes, let's interpret it as that. But man, you inspire, and I want to tell you that I think I've known you for longer than I have. if that makes sense. Like, let's think about it this way, Mike. So, like when you were a kid running around with the rest of your gang, with Dave and Brian and Johnny and those guys, and like you'd go home at night and you'd probably watch some TV, right? So like maybe it was Happy Days or maybe it was Three's Company. I mean, we're dating ourselves here, Mike. I mean, or maybe it was Fantasy Island. You know what I mean? But what you remember those shows? Tell me a character from one of those shows.
I remember those shows. Actually, my favorite show was Benny Hill.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know why Benny Hill was my favorite, Mike? Because you could always see boobies. On Benny.
A little nip slip.
Yeah, like we didn't have cable then, so it was always a good late night thing to get some nip action on Benny Hill.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
So Benny Hill is a poor example of where I'm going with this, but
no,
it's great. It's awesome. I'm glad that you brought that up. But because I don't think you could really get to know Benny Hill. Do you know what I mean? Like you might be able to get to know the Fonz. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you might be able to get to know the little midget from Fantasy Island. Or, there you go. That's Benny Hill. There it is. Right there, see? But so you get to know Benny Hill by watching Benny Hill. And, dude, like, I think for all bass fishing fans that we get to all know you. And you more so than many other anglers because you came at a very interesting time of the sport. You came into the sport at an interesting time. And Popcorn, when was Mike's first win? What was Mike's
1999?
1999. Right? Does that sound right? Your first bass win?
Champlain.
Yeah, that was my first professional level.
I should have clarified.
Yeah, you won a co-angler tournament before that as well, too, right?
Yes, won a co-angler before that, and way back in 1994, won a Federation National tournament. Before that, 98. But I'd like to consider my first win, my first club win at Top Rod Bassmasters.
Nice.
And that happened in April of 1990. That was actually my first tournament win. So
is that right? Of 1990, dude.
Yeah.
Was that the
first year it was the first year I fished for the club. It was a really small club at the time, but that first win was important. I mean, I'd put it up there with importance of all of them, because there's something that happens when you fish your first competitive fishing event and you win. That success that comes with a win and that feeling, and that was part of the spark for me, to want to pursue it at a different level. Honestly, before that, I don't know. I always looked at tournament fishing from afar and said, man, that would be so cool. How cool would it be to be able to do that? But, that first win, that mediocre, meaningless, no money win against 6 other guys sounds so insignificant. But for me, it was life-changing. And it was one of the moments where I changed my mindset from I like to watch bass fishing and I like to fish, and to, man, I like to compete. And that was a big one. That was a big win for me,
Dude, and I like how you stated that as a turning point in your life path. And like, think about this. 1990, Mike Iaconelli. And like, it's almost at that point, before the revelation of that you are going to dedicate yourself. Like, think about this. Is it almost unfathomable that you would be a Bassmaster Classic champion at that point in your life? Like,
oh yeah.
I mean,
it's a dream. I mean, it's a dream. It was a dream. I think everybody has aspirations, and when you're young, when you're a kid or a young adult, you have aspirations for your life and your career. And it's hard to actually fulfill dreams, so it's unreal. I still can't believe it. Dude. To be here getting to talk after Rick Clunn, I'll have to go back. I didn't get a chance to listen to it. I'll have to go back and listen to the segment, but this is surreal to follow a guy that is a hero of mine in the sport and, shape for sure shaped a lot of the way that I fish, the angler that I am. A lot of it was following him. And so even this is surreal. Who would have known? You know, we did it. Our last Ike Live show, we had Roland Martin on.
It was the best. It was the best.
I mean, you know, those kind of guys, when you have a chance to talk to them or, you know, follow them on a podcast like this, it's unbelievable. Like, honestly, when Roland got off, when Jimmy got off the week before that, it was unbelievable because the cameras are off and the mics are off and nobody got to see this. But so we all just kind of, you know, when you get done a long podcast, you know, you're tired, you guys know.
Yeah.
And, you know, we all just sat there and went, holy, did that just happen?
That's what we just did.
I'm looking at Dave and Dave's looking at me and I'm looking at Brian, you know, because it's surreal. I mean, this is, you know, we were kids. We were freaking young knuckleheads getting in trouble, doing dumb shit, but we loved the sport. We watched the sport. It was our thing.
Yeah.
Everybody else around here in this area, it was football, it was baseball, it was hockey.
Yeah.
But this was our thing.
I was good at fishing, man. You know?
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, so to have those kind of guests on and, you know, be on the same shows and even platforms as these guys is incredible.
Dude, it's got to be insane.
Mike, like the feeling or the surrealness is totally mutual over here, too. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you or Rick Clunn if I hadn't read your book as well. So it's all coming around. Like,
it's awesome. Full circle.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, exactly. Like, that's what I meant about getting to know a person. So in 1999-ish, we start to get to know you, right? You win the Classic, we get to know you even more. And the thing is, man, it's like, talk about surreal, Mike. And then I actually am, and I'm not being weird, dude, but I'm a fan of yours, man. I'm a fucking fan, dude. And
thank you, Pat. Thank you.
And then to act like you invite me to your house, like that is crazy talk. I'm like, did Becky do a background check
Wrong
on
number.
me? Yeah, are you sure you want me there? You know, like, so for me to interview, I'm not in. Dude, I'm getting worked up here, but here's the point of it. I am not a professional bass angler. I am a fan. I am a fan that hosts a bass fishing talk show. For me, it doesn't get any more surreal than this, dude.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
I totally get it. And, you know, the neat thing about it, and mentioned this before, I think we probably even talked about it before, is that this sport's a little different. And it's one of the reasons, you know, I love it. One of the reasons I'm so glad I ended up here. You know, you hear guys all the time talk about, you know, don't you wish you would have ended up in baseball or hockey or football or golf where there's real money? You know, there's some things I wish we could borrow from those sports. But the great thing about fishing is everybody's sort of on the same level, right? So, yeah, Clunn is out there, but he's a fish head.
Yeah.
He's a fish head, right?
He loves it.
Jacob Wheeler's out of his mind good right now, but he's just a fish head. And, you know, I think sort of it evens out this sport where, you know, everybody's sort of in the same zone. I mean, we all think the same. We all, you know, I'm no different than I was when I fished Top Rod Bassmasters. Dude. I had that same passion back then as I do now.
Because you're real. You're real. I had this conversation with a friend of ours today, and he gave me some advice about the bass fishing industry, and I'll share who the person is with you later if you wish. But he said, Pat, you have to remember that everybody is not your friend in this industry. And it was the advice he gave me because I'm very open. You know, I'm a very open person. So, you know, it's just it's the same correlation, Mike. I mean, it's I got a little lost for a moment, but dude, I want to thank you for the inspiration. And here's the big part for me, and I think that a lot of bass heads in the Bass Galaxy share this same thing. And you kind of taught us that it was okay to be us. Okay.
Yeah.
You and Mark Zona did that for a lot of us. And it's like, and there's another part to that though. Okay. It's, you can learn to be you, but like Clunn said, you have to be comfortable with you. So it's a point where being you, but not giving a shit what anybody else thinks as well. Do you agree with that statement?
I mean, I think everyone should follow their passion. I think everyone should follow their beliefs. I think everyone should be themselves. That's a really important thing in life. That's a tough thing. You know, as a teenager, you know, you all go through that struggle of finding yourself.
Yeah.
And, but you know, once you get to adulthood, you kind of have it figured out who you are and what makes you tick. And it should be okay to be that person, right? You shouldn't have to hide and shouldn't have to alter.
But
who
that
you
didn't
are.
happen in bass fishing, dude, until you. Do you
Right.
know? It didn't
Right.
happen until you. I can't think of examples really.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were some cases, and I think, you know, I can point to some early ones, but I think with the time that I got involved, bass fishing was being shown at a larger audience, media coverage like they'd never had. So there was some synergy with that. But you know what I was going to jump back and say, and this is really appropriate for what's happening in the world, for what's happening and certainly in my career moving forward, is that people are always very afraid and very skeptical of change, you know? And so when I came in, and there was a time when I first came in where I was even trying to sort of fit in a little, and I was sort of being quiet a little and hiding a little. But after a couple of years of being in and there was other stuff going on in my life, but I just said, you know what, screw it. This is who I am. I'm just going to show it. And when I did that, there was a lot of resistance. I mean, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I might as well.
They were dicky
I
to
mean,
you.
Dude, yeah.
the whole entire league, bass, there was a period when I was fishing the opens where I was like the Antichrist. Those first couple of years.
Why'd you feel like that?
You know,
Why did you feel like that?
The biggest names in the sport, guys who I still love, and I don't say this in a bad way because I love these guys, but you know, Denny Brower and Jay Yellis and these guys who are my heroes were like, this is crap, you know. And I know, I remember. I was there.
I do too.
It's okay.
I felt that
forgive.
energy from Brower, unfortunately. I know.
I forgive. It's okay. I forgive.
You're a good man.
But
Resentment's kill.
There was a time when, you know, it was really, there was a lot of rejection to having new things and being different. And, you know, I just stuck with it. I just stayed the course. And, you know, here we are 25 years later. And I'm still the same person. I'm the same person when I fished with Dave and Brian and John when I was 10, 12. So I'm going to stay the course to the end for me. And I think it's, you know, when you do that in your life, it's one of the most real, refreshing things you can do in your life is to do that. And I couldn't imagine living any other way. You know, did all good things happen in the last 25 years? No. But that's life, man. Sure. You have good moments, you have bad moments, you have ups, you have downs, you have things you regret, things you wish you could change. But there were so many good things that happened along the way, and I wouldn't change it at all. So looking forward, you know, here we are in the weirdest time of our lives for everybody. And you know, I'm looking forward to change in 21 for me, for the family, for my brand, and for the sport. I think, you know, change is okay. And so, you know, I think it's normal to be scared and to be frightened and to be, you know, sort of step back and say, oh, it's changed, something different's coming. You know, it's okay. Yeah. And I do that too, but you got to let go. And you got to be willing to say, hey, change is okay. You know, let's try something new. Let's try this. Let's do this. The world's changing. Let's change with it. So that's a big thing for me. Gonna see a lot of change with me in 21 and forward.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait.
And Mike, I gotta say too, like growing up listening to punk rock and skateboarding and stuff like that, and also being in love with fishing, and I think Andy would relate to me with this. That first time when you really started being yourself, I remember you had a Tundra patch, like safety pinned to a pair of plaid pants. And when I saw that,
awesome.
Honestly, for all those guys that, you said you were the Antichrist, for all those guys, there was probably an equal amount of us who saw that and said, this guy's the best, and I feel so much better about bass fishing now. Like it really,
awesome.
it really changed my whole perspective on the sport.
I appreciate it. And I'm glad you remembered the plaid pants, because
Absolutely.
a lot of people don't. They were referred to as disco pants. People were calling them disco pants back then.
No, that was punk rock.
They didn't know.
They were just great looking plaid pants. But it's a different world now, and I love it. It's a different world now because of guys like you, this podcast, you guys, being from a part of the country that's not the norm, fishing, bringing DJing, skateboarding, all these other elements into the sport. Guys like Cast Crew. I'm with Oliver Nye this week. Big Bass Dreams.
Yeah.
Guys that are breaking the mold are great for the sport, and it's definitely different. And I'm so glad it is. It's not the 90s when I was being rejected because of who I was and what part of the country I was from.
Yeah, because you were a
how
Yank.
I acted,
You're a
how I
Yankee.
dressed. It's not there anymore. It's not there. This is a wide open sport, and I love it. I love what I'm seeing. I love the diversity. I want more of it.
Exactly. And dude, I consider you an American. I consider you a patriot. At the beginning of every Ike live, yes, sir. You're like the patriot when he came home from battle. But at the beginning of every Ike live show, you thank the men and women of the armed forces as well as the police and firemen, I believe. So to me, you are a great American. Now here where I'm going with this, and I love our country. Now, what was the classic where you knocked the flag over, where you freaked out? What was that? What year?
6.
It was 2000. It was 2006.
6.
Yes, it was.
Okay, Whitaker knew way before you did. Yeah.
It was a weird year because it was the only year they had 2 classics sort of in a row back to back. It was the last summer classic, which was Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and then that was in 2005, and then in 2006 they had a tournament in like February or March.
Yeah. That's when the elites.
Yeah. So it was really, really weird. But let me give you the story and let me stop you because what you said. I think I want people to hear the story, and what you said is a little misleading. That I knocked the flag down, and that. When I look back at that, it wasn't that.
Okay,
I knocked
the light pole.
The light post down.
Okay. Now, and I want you to totally explain it, but I just want you to know first, okay, that as a bass fishing fan, I didn't see it that way when it happened. Okay, so what you just said makes perfect sense. This is what I'm leading up to. I did not see Mike Iaconelli knock down a flag. So this is why I'm stopping you. We're on the same page, okay? Everyone all of a sudden was like, Mike knocked down a flag. Now, please, Mike, tell your version of the story. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. No, it's okay. And again, this is one of those things that, you wish you can go back and do different, of course, but it happened. And so you got to remember, back then, this was in an era of bass fishing where at the time, you had to get in a boat that wasn't yours when you fished a classic. We've lobbied for a lot of years to get rid of that. Thank God in bass they did. So when we go to fish championship events now, we're in our own boat, which is the right thing to do, right?
Yeah.
But back then,
100%.
You sort of got into a boat that wasn't yours, that wasn't tested, that wasn't, you're getting into a boat that's just this random boat. That year, it happened to be a Triton. And It's the first day of the Classic. I'm early in my career. I'm having a series of good years. I'm pumped up. I'm excited. I go out and catch an early limit. I've got, 10 or 12 pounds to stand on. What a great start. I decide to make a move. This is on Lake Kissimmee. And when I make that move, and by the way, a camera guy is in my boat. They decided to put a camera guy in my boat the first day. I make a move, and I catch one to call, catch 2.5 to replace a 2. And when I go in that live well to open it up, all the fish are floating. They're dead or they're dying.
Horrible.
Yeah, terrible. And imagine that. And one of the really things that I've struggled with in my career, and I still do now, even after 25 years, is the emotions and keeping them balanced, right? And so my highs are super high, my lows are super low. And, when that happened, I sort of hit this like almost freak out, blackout mode. And there's a lot of people watching and listening that could probably instantly relate to this. There's others maybe that can't. But if you're listening or watching, if you can legitimately look in the mirror and say you've never had something happen in your life where you're so mad and frustrated, you kind of just blurry black out, then you're lying. Because we've all had those moments.
Yeah, buddy.
We've all had those moments. Okay.
Yes. Fury.
And so when that happened, I was just so full of anger and rage, and I was so mad that this happened, not because I mistreated the fish, not because I didn't do my due diligence, not because I didn't have the live well on, but because I'm a top-level touring pro that qualified for this tournament in my boat, and now I'm thrust into a boat with non-working live wells. Shout out to Triton. I mean, so this is what's going through my mind. One of the ways I've dealt with frustration and pain and loss during a tournament like that and anger is I sort of try to let it out quick and I get on with my day.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, first I'm back there because I'm back on the back deck and I'm like, what do? I got to try to revive these fish. And the first thing I thought was just start like sort of kicking and stomping. And I kicked that light pole. Didn't even think, just sort of kicked it and just sort of like got back to doing what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then like after it happened, I realized that, oh shit, I kicked that light post and it's down in the water. I got to get that so they're not mad at me at the end of the day because the light post isn't in. And then at that point when I picked it up, I realized that they had these small flags on all the light posts on all 50 boats.
Mm-hmm.
It sort of hit me then that, oh shit, damn, it just didn't see it, But this is the story I've had to explain for 25 years. And it's okay because I'm in the public light. I'm human. I make mistakes. I'm okay with apologizing. I did 3 days after that tournament was over. I have 25 years later. I'm still apologizing. That incident had nothing to do with the American flag.
Exactly.
I love the country.
I know.
I love the country. I love our military. Oh my God, I'm the most blessed guy in the world to fish for a living and participate in a sport that I love.
Yeah.
So it had nothing to do with that. And, Pat, after all these years, you're going to have people that believe you and can look me in the eye and say, man, I've been there. I know, I understand. I get it. And there's guys that are going to say, nah, I don't like that guy. And that's okay. That's okay.
Of course
As
it
I
is.
said before, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I'm okay with that. But I want everybody to know my side of the story. And I want to end this story on something else.
Yes.
Why we're throwing people under the bus. When that happened, this is before live coverage. Okay. So you gotta put yourself in a different time. This is back when they used the camera that's the size of a dinosaur and they had this big beta tape that popped in there. And when they record it, this was all tape that then they send back to the studio and then, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, and I have my theories on who it is. Someone at Bass, ESPN, Bass, said, "Oh my God, did you see this? Let's play this over and over and over and over again." And they were doing it for ratings.
Yes.
I get it. They were doing it for ratings. They were doing it for eyeballs. But they were potentially taking down my career by showing it away, right? Like, not showing it sort of the way it happened in my eyes, but showing it a way that's controversial. And, you know, I always had a hard time with that. It's happened after that too. There's some instances where it's happened where, you know, Bass and ESPN sort of, at my expense, you know, benefited and was trying to benefit or whatever. And, you know, it's, I get it. I get it because, you know, they want eyeballs and they want ratings, but at some point, you know, do you play it once and address it? Do you play it 50 times like they did during the course of that day? You know, I don't know. I don't know, but I wasn't the guy in charge at the time doing production, working for Bass. It wasn't me. It might've been a guy with the initials of JM. It wasn't me. But it hurt. It hurt. But
sure it did.
You know,
you love the sport.
What that led to was it did lead to, you know, things in life are like, you know, something happens and it leads to something else, right? It's like something occurs and because of that, it changes you or points you in a direction.
Cause and effect.
And it did for sure for me. I had to sort of reanalyze what was going on. You know, when I won the Classic in 03, from 03 to that moment, I was on a giant high where I said yes to everything, promotional opportunities, marketing. I was hardly home. I was sort of living right on the edge, like just barely on the edge of falling off. You know what I mean? And my fishing was great, but it was just high energy. And at that moment, I really had to stop. The best thing that could ever happen is my family was there. When all the Classic was done and everything was over, I got to spend a couple days with them. We spent a day at Disney. I got just hanging out. And there was a lot of self-reflection that happened in those couple days. And, you know, I sort of reanalyzed where I was going, who I was, you know, looking at my faults, you know, looking at my frustration and anger and how I dealt with it and looking at that stuff. And the other thing I did is I said, you know, now's a time where lesser guys would throw up their hands and say, screw this. I don't need this shit. I'm out. I'll go back to DJing. I'll go back to being a whatever. You know, I don't need this criticism and I don't need people thinking this. I didn't do that. I reanalyzed and said, look, man, I'm going to get back to fishing. I'm going to get back to focusing on fishing. It's what I love. It's why I'm here. And from that next tournament to the last tournament in 2006, I fished with a purpose that I've never had in my entire career. I had a burning desire to be the best every time I fished. And it's the year that I won AOY. I won Angler of the Year that year.
Yeah.
And I won at Guntersville. And, you know, I did it for myself, but I also did it as an answer to people.
Of course
who
you did.
Were wondering,
yeah, man.
You know, and so again, when I look back on that, do I regret some things? Would I change some things? Yeah, but you can't, because you see how that was important. You know, Ranger was the only sponsor I lost when that happened. Ranger was the only sponsor I lost. And I got a phone call, you know, with no apology saying, you're gone. You know, couldn't get a word in from a company that I've been with my whole career. I couldn't explain my story. It was the only company that did that.
Dude, and then you went faster.
It led me to a better place.
Dude.
It led me to a better place. Especially now, when I see the fallout at Ranger, I sort of giggle.
I know.
Because I knew what was going down back then with them people.
Mike.
Anyway, And this is all great because I'm telling you, listen, I'm not drunk. I'm not under
Dude,
the influence of
no.
anything. I'm being me.
I know
I'm
you are, and
loving
let me
this.
tell you,
I am drinking a Founders, though. This is the new Unraveled IPA, which is marvelous. God, if you've got a Founders brewery or a Founders distributor near you, a liquor store, try this Unraveled. It's unbelievable. I love it.
And
So good.
Ryan's doing shots of Tin Cup and chasing it with Founders.
It's true.
So, Mike,
but you know what I'm saying, Pat. Like things happen and they lead you in a different direction, and you know your life is shaped by those moments, by failures, and by injury, and by all these things, heartbreak, and all these things shape your life. And I've said it before, and I'm say it now. I'm not perfect, man. You've had a lot of guys on this show. They seem pretty damn perfect to me. They do. They're Christians and they're just perfect. I am not perfect. I'm not perfect.
Me
I'm
neither.
a human. I make mistakes. I've made them. I'm going to make more. I'm not perfect, but I do try to learn. I do try to advance. I do try to keep moving forward. And it's me.
It is.
You get what you get.
Dude, I got to tell you this,
Dealt
Mike.
with adversity well.
Here's the reason I asked you about the pole flag story. This was not, you brought that story exactly where I planned on taking it. And that whole, first off, the incident was, I didn't see it like that. Second off, it was completely blown out of proportion. And I did not like that because I had respect for you at that time. Second off, I saw that you won the AOY in 2006, and that was a big that was a big FU. And you did it because you are you, and you stuck to your guns, bro. Like, that's why you inspire. That's never give up. That's being yourself, Mike Iaconelli. That kind of bullshit. Like, if you would have got thumbed down at that point of your career, imagine what of an injustice to the bass fishing galaxy it would have been. And all I want to say, dude, I know that we're running over. I know you're a busy man. You got Oliver in town. You got an Ike Live coming up this week. And I just want to tell you, man, that please, whatever you choose to do in your future, just keep kicking ass and keep inspiring, man. Just be Mike. Because, dude, we love Mike. We love Mike Iaconelli, Bass Fishing Galaxy.
Thank you.
That's the deal.
Thank you.
That's the deal. No bullshit, bro. No bullshit. You're a sinner just like the rest of us.
That's right. That's right. I'm a normal guy. Normal guy. But, I'm excited. 2021 is definitely going to be a year of change for a lot of us in the world, but for us, it's going to be a year of change. And I'm really, really excited. Reaching people, getting to people, getting a message to people is a hard thing to do. And we're really focused on getting to new people in the best way that we can. And we've got some things in the works that real exciting, like what you're doing here with Straycast, and, what we do with Ike Live, and, we're reaching new people, and that's so important. And the world of professional bass tournament fishing, pro tour fishing, I love it. I always will love it, but it is a box, and, it's hard to reach new people in the box of pro tournament fishing. So you got to work really hard at saying, how can we get to other people? How can we get somebody that's not a hardcore bass head to think about picking up fishing, to think about enjoying fishing? How do we get to people worldwide? How do we get to kids? How do we get to women? How do we get to different places where they're not watching the elites? They're not watching the Bass Pro Tour. I don't even know what the Bass Pro Tour is.
Yeah. Right?
How do you get to those people? We're really focused on that, and we really believe there's not a better time, with what's happened in the world, so much negative and so much, God, it's horrible. It's terrible, everything that's gone on. But little glimmers of good are mixed in it. And one is more people are opening up to the outdoors and fishing and the premise of trying fishing. And what a great time for us to attack that market, right? To attack that group of people.
Heck yeah, bro.
And we're going all in on it. And, you know, Becky and I, we don't sleep. When we do, we're thinking about it. You know, when I get off with you here in a couple minutes, I'm going to go to sleep and I'm going to think about it. Our minds are turning, our wheels are turning. Even as we sleep, we don't like to sit still. So we're really going to push the envelope in 21, and we're excited about what's going to happen.
Yeah, dude.
Like, I think you nailed it when you said, how do we get to women? I mean, I think that's really what everybody's thinking. How do we get to women?
Well, yeah, I'll take that in a couple ways.
Yeah.
But dude,
no, I'm just kidding. But that's absolutely, man, different platforms.
Yeah, man.
There's so many of them now.
And your part, in another part of your mantra, and I'll probably might say this a little wrong, is like, if you're not part of the future of fishing, like, just get out of the way, dude. Just let the man go through. You know what I mean? It seems that's part of your mission. You do it with the Ike Foundation. And if you don't get the kids that might not have a chance to go fishing any other way, and let's be real, Mike, like, let's say you, out of all those events that you do, that it sticks with one kid, one kid in the Ike Foundation. Dude, that's an accomplishment.
Victory.
It's a freaking accomplishment.
So important.
Hey,
it's a big victory.
Huge. Dude, we would be amiss if we did not celebrate very quickly some amazing statistics of yours, Mike Iaconelli. Now, Ryan Whitaker actually probed Ronnie Moore for these. He he probed him hard. Yeah, probed him hard. Ronnie. Yeah, he probed Ronnie.
He did not enjoy it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Ronnie made noises. Yeah, he was the probing
Mike,
of Ronnie Moore.
I don't know if you care about these numbers, but I'm going to give them to you anyways. These are all from Bassmaster. This is your Bassmaster career real quick. 250 derbies you fished. You fished 20 Bassmaster Classics. You won one, 2003. You had 8 wins overall, 68 top 10s. You caught 8,247 pounds of bass. You won $2,650,205. And you averaged $321 a pound of bass.
$321 every pound of bass you caught, Mike Iaconelli.
Furthermore, you averaged $10,600 per tournament.
Whoa!
It's a big one.
No wonder Becky's a happy woman.
That's crazy. Great. I'm so glad you read those stats off, and it's a great time for me to say to all those haters that are talking about, stop yelling, it's a big one, and it's a 1-pounder. Boom!
Yes!
Yeah, if you won $321 every scratch-off, you'd probably scream too, right? And that's just a pound.
Hey, Andy.
Good point.
Ginger Ninja. You know that one song that Mike did that time? We were going to open the show with it when Mike came on, but Mike, you know how some artists get to do harmonies with themselves on records? You know, you know how I'm saying. Well, we're going to play, if you would take us out, and are you ready, Andy, with it? I would like if you could harmonize with yourself and just please take us out of this season 6, episode 1, Stray Cast, glorified version of a Bass Fishing Talk Show. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the proper bassin' man, the vocalist, Mike Iaconelli.
Oh my God! I can't believe it. Oh my God, we were just talking about it.
Mike Iaconelli! Yes! Woo!
That's perfect.
It was lip syncing.
It was like Milli Vanilli's.
That was awesome.
Yes, you did a great job.
Awesome.
Wow.
I want to do that again. That was awesome.
hey, Mike, real quick. Do you know? I mean, I know Rick Clunn is a big, you're a big follower. You won $2,650,000. Do you know how much Rick Clunn won in his career?
Oh, it's got to be double or triple that. I'm assuming
$2,623,000.
Really?
Whoa, Mike.
Wow.
Wow.
Huh.
Holy
Interesting.
shnikes. We'll take that.
You got him.
Yeah.
Granted, you know,
Yeah.
those classics he won weren't worth half as much as the one you won. But
Yeah.
still, your numbers are actually pretty similar. I'll give you that.
Wow.
What's up, Mike? Where you got?
Well,
What do you
he's-
got? Where you go? We got Ike
Got-
Live. Ike Live coming up.
We have an Ike Live. We do. We have one. We always try to take advantage when we have really special guys coming through. And we did a few weeks ago with Ben Milliken, great guy, young guy. And this week we have Oliver Nye in, and it's been great. You know, I love the energy of these younger guys from non-traditional parts of the country. Oliver's from the West Coast, and we've got him on. We had him on Bass U last night. It was great to hear his fishing strategies and his techniques.
I caught some of it.
But we're
yeah.
going to open up. Yeah, we're going to open up with him on Ike Live this Friday, 7 p.m. each time, and it's going to be good because you know he's a part of that new breed of angler that's changing things, and we need these kind of guys. I'm so excited to flush it out with him a little bit.
So
you
he's
know?
part of
It's
the
gonna be good.
future. He's part of the future in your eyes, Mike.
He's part of the future, and you know there's going to be guys that keep coming, and we have to keep accepting them. You know, there's YouTube guys right now that are inspiring young kids, and those young kids will be the next guy, and then they'll inspire more young kids, and that cycle needs to happen.
It's the cycle.
You know, it's frustrating when you hear guys put the kibosh on people because them YouTubers, or this guy he doesn't have any big wins, but in the grand scheme of things that really doesn't matter because these guys are aspiring the next generation. They're having an impact on people to make them want to fish and to make them want to fish more. I think it's great. So I'm the opposite. I am open arms to those guys.
Bring them in.
They're not bad. They're good.
Speaking of kids, let's picture Brian, picture Dave, and picture John. And this is my final question to you of the evening. Do you ever think they just sit around and they're like, man, I can't believe that kid won the Classic. Unbelievable. Mike freaking won the Classic. He won our friend won the Classic. Like, do you like, it was Mike. Mike was the one.
I don't know. I mean, I actually still say that too. Like, it's still hard to believe.
It was me. I won.
It's really hard to believe, but it's good because, like, I got to give you a story that I've probably never told anybody, and I'm going to go ahead and tell it again.
Perfect.
I don't care.
Good.
When we got home, I actually won the Classic in 2003 and spent a couple days in New Orleans having to do some media stuff. And when I finally headed back home, I got to drive home with Pete Glusick and John McGraw. And the whole way back, we had this great 2-day drive home where we strategized. Pete and John are both very smart guys, strategized a lot of stuff, like literally writing it down in a notebook. This is like pre-freaking cell phone and tablet and all that. So we're writing shit down by hand, like, how to parlay this into something big, right? But when we got back, the first thing we did is we had a big party with just all the homies from here, the guys I club fished with for years. We had a party at my friend Tim Roach's house, and it was this unbelievable mass of regular dudes, just hardcore fish heads. And everyone was so proud. Like, it was like they won it, and it felt so good to like bring that trophy home, and it was almost like, it was like a win for the regular dude.
Yeah, it sure was.
And for the Northeast, we had Brian Kerschel, who was our guy.
Mm-hmm.
He brought one home to Connecticut, which is like bringing it home to Jersey. It's in the Northeast, and he was young and he was different. And, but outside of Kerschel, we never really had a guy here that, that brought it home. And so when when I came home, we had that party. It was just this. It was like having a party with your buds.
Yeah.
And we were drinking beers, and by the end of the night, there was a beer can sitting on top of the globe of the classic trophy, and there was trash around it. And not to degrade the trophy, but just regular dudes.
Yeah.
And it was just this amazing thing.
Mike won the classic. Can you believe Mike won the classic?
Yeah, that guy over there.
It's Mike. He freaking won the classic. Let's
It's crazy.
That's what I'm
It's
saying.
crazy.
Dude, Mike, go do more bass fishing guy work, okay? Or get some rest or something. Something.
Yes. Sleep. Sleep is good.
Thank
Sleep
you
is
for
good.
everything you have done for the entire Bass Galaxy. Thank you for everything you have done for me, and thank you for everything you have done for this show. We are forever grateful, just so you know. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Mike Iaconelli.
Thank you, Mike.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Peace. Yes, Mike Iaconelli. There it is.
Fantastical.
Wow. That
Wow.
was a wonderful nightcap.
Dude.
Can you say wonderful nightcap?
Yeah.
Guess what?
I'm going to have another one.
Guess what? Ryan, why don't you take a legendary shot at Tin Cup?
Okay, I'll do another one.
And right now, Andrew Ellenberger is getting the one and only. Like, you thought we were done? Nuh-uh. We're
not
giving
done?
away the pocket
Oh,
rock.
yeah. The
Pedro's
pocket
Magic Pocket Rock.
If he's up.
I don't know. We'll try calling Pedro. Is he still on? Can you guys tell on your computer web
I think
thing
he was
if he's
polishing. Wasn't he polishing it?
there? I don't. He might be.
We'll see if he answers.
We're trying
He
to
might
call.
be grumpy.
Can you do it on? Can you put the ringer on the airwaves?
No.
So the whole thing.
No.
No. I want this whole all captured, Andy.
I don't want angry Pedro.
No. We want angry Pedro.
Luke Foley, I'm doing one right now.
We want
I don't know
angry
if you can see
Pedro.
it.
I'm pretty sure you don't.
Damn it! I'm gonna blow him up too. Seth, if you're listening, still call your dad.
Here we go.
Here we are. Do we have him?
It's calling.
Okay, the phone is ringing. This is Peter Fighter. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Pedro Fighter, Mr. Peter Fighter on the phone. Hello.
I'm on.
Hey, this Pedro? Hey,
Yep,
can you hear me, Pedro?
I can hear you now.
Cool. Hey, turn your radio off.
Yeah, turn the show down.
Okay, yeah, I'll turn the screen off.
You're supposed to say love.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, you're supposed to say hate you, Pat. Love your show. Whenever you call me.
Hey, you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Last time
hey,
listener.
you, Pat. Love your show.
Thank you, Mr. Fighter. So
you got it.
The whole Bass Galaxy was in an uproar because, and I'm blaming it on Sleepy Matt Robertson, that we forgot to give away your lucky pocket rock on the New Year's Eve show.
That's right.
And to reiterate, the pocket rock is magical and has brought great fortune to myself, to Matt Robertson, to your son, Seth Fighter, to some great things have happened to Chris Grow, and you have graciously offered to give a person in the Bass Galaxy, a member of the Bass Galaxy, a lucky Pedro pocket rock. Now, Pedro, I ask you, what was the number that person in the Bass Galaxy had to pick?
Okay. Well, I have a couple of grievances first.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Oh, boy.
Uh-oh. Hold on. Go ahead.
Okay. First off, I still don't have any tin cup whiskey.
Uh-oh. Luke Foley, are you listening?
Whoops.
Uh-oh. Interesting.
Secondly,
It's a rock star now.
my bedtime's 9:15.
Holy cow. He's hammering me.
I know I'm old.
You do
but
one internet
You're gonna-
appearance
you're
and
gonna
now
wake
you're
up
a
nine.
rock star. He's a rock star now. He does one show. And now, like, the fan mail's been flooding in.
He's going to wake up 10 minutes late tomorrow.
Yeah. Unreal.
That's very true. I go to bed at this time. I wake up at this time.
Okay.
In the dark. But okay, I'm ready. What would you like to know?
I want to know what the lucky number was.
Okay, the lucky number was my favorite number, which is when I was a kid, third baseman for the Minnesota Twins, Rich Rollins, number 9.
Number 9, Rich Rollins for the Minnesota Twins. Batting third for the Minnesota Twins, number 9. It's Rich Rollins. He's Peter Fighter's favorite. Awesome.
Hot corner.
Awesome. Now, this is the moment. I mean, this is the deal. Pedro Fighter, I'm gasping here in excitement. Who is the winner of the Lucky Pocket Rock?
Okay. The winner of the Lucky Pocket Rock is Tim. Wait a minute. That's Timothy Mills.
Timothy Mills.
Timothy Mills. This is the best prize ever given away on Straight Cast. I'm sorry. This is better than the $2,000 Sims rain suit. This is unbelievable. You won the Lucky Pocket Rock. You're a gracious man, Mr. Fighter. You're a great. I'm not supposed to call you Mr. Fighter, but I feel that that's a respectful thing to say right now after such an amazing present.
Well, I appreciate it, but Pedro is fine.
Okay, Pedro. And Timothy, all I'm saying is we're going to get you're going to get this rock mailed to you. And if you do not do a personal video post thanking Pedro, we're going to find you.
And
we're going to find you.
Timothy, if you're fishing any derbies this year, let us know and we won't come.
Exactly.
Because you're going to win them.
Exactly. Bass Galaxy, that is the now famous, legendary, one and only Mr. Pedro Fighter. Give it up for Pedro. Yes.
Thank you very much, but I just have to, before I go, Rick Clunn, we're about the same age, blew my mind.
Dude, unreal.
That was so far out there. I can relate to all of his experiences, but that was the best interview I've ever heard.
Thank you so much.
You guys should definitely be friends.
Yeah, that's what Seth and I were talking earlier, and we were debating. Do you think you could have a conversation with Mr. Clunn, Pedro?
Oh, I do believe I could.
Okay, we're gonna arrange that. By the way, let's
Zoom date.
Yeah, me, you, and Clunn are gonna sit down at the Bassmaster Classic whenever it happens. Okay.
Okay,
That's
I
what's gonna
would
happen.
like that.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Bass Galaxy, give it up for Pedro Fighter. He's the guy that him and Ann Fighter, they spawned Seth. They spawned him.
Solid spawn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hey,
Okay, well, thanks very much, and I'm going to go to bed.
all right, good night. Nighty nights. Sleepy
Night,
boo-boos.
night.
That's Mr.
See y'all.
Fighter. Take care, Mr.
Bass
Fighter.
Galaxy.
I mean, Pedro.
Yep.
There it is. Bass Galaxy. I like how he said
Yeah.
it.
Said it.
Like I said it at the end. Heck yeah. Hey, now we got one more prize.
Omnia.
This is the Omnia Fishing. And starting next week, we have a new segment. It's called the Omnia Need Me One of Those Baits.
Omnia need me one of these.
Omnia Need Me One of
That's
those.
kind of like Never Go Be Hungry.
No, I'm going to be hungry because I'm going to need me one of these baits. That starts next week. But we're going to give away the big Omnia $50 coupon prize pack. Who the hell's got the winner? Andy, Jake, anybody? Andy, say something loud.
No.
Like, Andy, yell.
No.
Yell like Mike Iaconelli. You love Mike. Yeah! Wow.
Oh my God!
You sound just like Mike.
I too.
I can't believe it.
I
were
can't
just
believe
talking
it either.
about it.
You sound just like Mike. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner for the Omnia $50 Unspaten Blütenschnock is
Jay Buffer.
Jay Buffer. Come on down. You won the first ever $50 gift card from Omnia Fishing on Straight Cast, the glorified version. What's his name?
The Buffer.
The Buff what?
Yeah.
Baffa?
He'll figure it out. If not, we'll spend it.
It
Either
goes
way.
like this. Step aside, my friends, and let me show you how we do it. Put your
Either way,
backbone,
it's a
hips,
win.
and your lips to it. There it is.
I ain't put no rocks in
Wow.
nobody's butts.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am blown away on the thin raft of bassin that we all sail. I'd like to thank our amazing advertisers who make this show possible, because honestly, we couldn't do it. We could not do this without them. It has come to that. And
we could, but it would suck.
Yeah, I just would I don't know. I'd just be on my roof.
There would be no lights.
I'd be cold like Rick Clunn.
There'd be no electricity.
Thank you, Rick Clunn, for coming on the show. Unbelievable that you texted and said, Phone call the 6th, Rick C. Thank you. Mike Iaconelli, as weird as a lot of that probably sounded coming from me, you are our hero.
It was awesome.
You are an inspirer, and we thank you for coming on the show here tonight. Andrew Ellenberger, amazing job, Andy. Amazing job tonight. Ryan Popcorn Whitaker, amazing job as well. Jake Haas, you're the shit, dude. Keep working hard for us. We appreciate it. I'm Pat Renwick, Bass Galaxy. I bid you peace. We return next week with, well, you'll see. You'll see.
What kind of straight cast was this tonight?
Oh, this was a, what do you mean?
Like, how was it prepared?
Oh, this one was definitely over easy.